Yes, everybody, welcome back to the Irish Hotspur. Jack here, and in this video, we are going to be giving our predicted lineup ahead of our clash with Chelsea this Sunday. Please smash that like button for us, but also as well, let me know if you disagree with any of the choices that I might have made ahead of our clash with Chelsea. There are only so many options available to us, but some interesting choices, available to Ange when it comes to the midfield or to the wing options. So let me know if you disagree with any. But without further ado, let's get into it. We have Fraser Forster, of course. He's played well for the most part. I don't think he's really been the center of the negative attention. I actually think he's done a lot better than maybe what some of us might have expected. Could he be a bit more dominant from set pieces? I don't feel like I've been given that same sort of assuredness that, maybe we thought we would get with someone as tall as him. But then again, like I said, I'm not really going to be that critical. And you could also say that playing out from the back has been a tad bit of a problem. But to be honest, Ange said this, right? He said that that shouldn't be an issue because it should be more the responsibility of the defenders to not have to play backwards, to not have to depend on Fraser Forster to do the job for them. So I definitely would agree with that. And credit to Forster, right? He's done really well so far. So Fraser Forster is the obvious pick for the player in goals. We're going to go over to right back. I think it's going to be Pedro Porro, even though I think he's very tired. He looks leggy. I think he's been off it a little bit, in my opinion, at least by his own high standards. Doesn't seem as energetic or as, as enthusiastic and, kind of his play, especially defensively. Looks like he's trying to almost save a breath or, gather breath, if you will. He's played some minutes space. He's played the most minutes almost of any player without any real rest at all. And I think that's a consequence of us not using Spence enough and also not probably using Gray enough as fullback options, or at least as relief for Pedro Porro to get some minutes of rest this season. And it's just come back to hurt us, whether it's on Ange, for him not playing Spence or not giving Gray more opportunities of fullback, or if it's on the board for not giving Ange enough options for him to actually trust and believe in. It doesn't really matter for me. It's just come back to hurt us. And we're seeing kind of the effects of, Pedro Porro as well as Destiny Udogie, in my opinion, being overused as well as being overplayed. And it just comes down to either the board or Ange just not using the available depth options that they have. And to be honest, there really isn't that much depth when it comes to the fullback. Spence is basically being asked to play both right back and left back, and then Archie Gray to a degree as well. But you could see it as maybe Archie Gray probably not being a fullback, which isn't necessarily ideal. And then also in the case of Jet Spence, it just looks like Ange maybe doesn't trust him, or the injuries are deeper than we realize and we don't know the whole story. It's just very confusing at this time. And what we do know is that Destiny Udogie as well as Pedro Porro certainly have been overplayed, I think, this season. And Destiny Udogie has a really tough assignment, I think, against Nodi Madueke. I think he's a very skillful player. Definitely one of their more consistent attacking threats in this Chelsea team, alongside Cole Palmer, who I think they've struck a really good partnership with each other. Those two very good left-footed, creative type players, and he has a very tough assignment. I think Destiny Udogie sometimes can maybe have some lapses of concentration or end up being a little bit too aggressive, or just doesn't maybe sort of see the picture enough, maybe defensively. And even the other day, right, against Bournemouth, he ended up closing down a player when he was basically the last man back, and they nearly scored from it. So he does probably need to sharpen up defensively. That being said, I do think he has, for the most part, a lot of really good defensive attributes. He's very strong. He's very quick. He looks like he's not afraid of the physical challenge and getting, physical with his opponents. But Destiny Udogie, I think, has had maybe some moments this season where he's left maybe a little bit to be desired defensively. And he has a huge assignment against Madueke this weekend, but we'll see how he does. And rooting the best for him, especially against this Chelsea team, which are full of good attackers. You have Dragishin as the right-sided center back, probably for this one. He's played pretty well for the most part, and I would say that with Ben Davis, with Fraser Forster, and with Radu Dragishin, probably the guys that we all thought maybe ahead of this tough fixture schedule and just this tough month in general with all the injuries. You would think that these are the guys that we'd be kind of looking at as, kind of the, maybe there'd be one that would, let us down or hurt us, eventually. It hasn't been the case, actually. You would say that Radu Dragishin, Ben Davis, as well as Fraser Forster, have been probably some of our better players in these past few games or so. So credit to Radu. And I would say that while he's not maybe the most pleasing on the eye in possession, not nearly as much as Romero or Van de Ven, does tend to have that decent long ball on him that has worked out every now and again. And I feel like he can get caught on the ball, every now and again. But for the most part, I think he's gotten a little bit better, in possession, each passing game. The one thing I will say defensively is that he's strong, he's very aggressive. I like that about him. But I feel like every now and again you do see maybe a ball kind of played over the top that he seems to get caught out with, or even just a ball directly over the top of his head. He doesn't seem to always look to try to clear it as much as you would think he would, being such a tall and aggressive defender. But again, that's probably being nitpicky, and I think he's been very good so far. When we go over to left sided center back, I have gone for the likes of Christian Romero. That's because, felt like Ange Postecoglou didn't want to say that he was available for this one. But when he said that he should be there for training today and he should be there tomorrow, and we'll assess from there. I'm getting the vibe that he's going to really try to push Christian Romero for this game. Ben Davis being out, he might feel like he has to just call on Romero, even if he isn't 100% fit. Hopefully, he is back for this one. He will be needed in this game. We need someone that can inspire others with that intensity that he'll bring. Getting crunched into someone, getting stuck in maybe in the first 5-10 minutes could hopefully inspire us to try to put in a much more, stronger as well as just more driven and more enthusiastic performance than we've seen of late. And he could probably be that guy that could also help calm some of the others down when we are being put under pressure by this Chelsea team. I will expect that this Chelsea team should be pressing us at periods in this game. And someone like Romero, who's so calm and collected on the ball, in my opinion, the best player we have in that defense, at least in possession. I think he's better than anybody else. He's so composed. And I think he could bring that sense of calm to the rest of the team when we do get put under pressure by this Chelsea side. And he can also pick out passes from that back line that I don't think others can either. He gets moves started a bit quicker by playing balls more centrally, into someone like a Maddison or into a Sar instead of just hitting it out wide or hitting it to the fullbacks to get things going in the wide areas and then into the central areas. I think Romero does a good job of just sort of directly feeding it into the central midfielders by disguising passes and just doing a good job of just picking out in a very technical way those sort of passes beyond the opposition midfield. But let's go into the midfield now. Midfield, we're going to have Basuma. He's been playing pretty well for the most part, in my opinion. I don't feel like he has that same composure and that same silkiness in possession that Bentancur does, but I don't think he's really been much of a problem either. And for the most part, I think he's been really strong defensively, despite some silly yellow cards. I've seen Basuma win the ball back for us in some really crucial moments in this little period that he's been having as the first choice center defensive midfielder, especially in these Premier League games. So I've been pretty satisfied with his performances. I do feel like there is a difference between him and Bentancur, especially when we're trying to start moves, especially when we're in possession, but out of possession, I think he's done a pretty good job. And for the most part, in possession, like I said, I don't think he's really been that much of an issue. It's just that I do think there's a tad bit of a quality difference between him and the likes of Bentancur. But going on to the other center mid position, it's going to be Pop Matsar. I think he's been one of the better players during this up and down period here since he's gotten his way back into the starting 11. I think he's probably been next to Kulusevski. He's one of our more consistent players, and he sets the tone for us defensively in games. He is that engine for us in the midfield when it comes to winning the ball back, kind of pressing high with the midfield, getting stuck in high up the pitch for us to trying to turn it over in good areas. But he also does a really good job of being that willing runner when we are in possession. He's a guy that's willing to make a run beyond the opposition midfield, beyond the opposition back line, and I think that could be really needed in a high intensity back and forth type of game like this one. And I think recently he's been trying to pick out more dangerous passes. Like I said, he's more known for being that engine like midfielder for us, a guy that does so many of the other parts of the game that maybe not everyone can do. But I think he is trying to pick out more dangerous passes, big switches of play, balls over the top, that type of thing. So I have been really liking his game recently and just been liking his performances for the most part, despite everyone kind of being up and down, this team being up and down in general when it comes to their performances. And then going into the central or the creative midfield role, I've gone for Maddison. The reason being is I feel like Ange Postecoglou has been leaning on him recently. He does still like to take him out early. I don't really understand that, especially when we are looking to try to chase games and when we are looking to have more creativity. It seems like it seems counterintuitive basically to bring off Maddison, but it maybe has to do with energy levels. Perhaps it has to do with just fitness or something that Ange just doesn't like about Maddison when he gets into those kind of 60th minute, 70th minute type of periods. But for the most part, I feel like Maddison hasn't been playing as poorly as maybe others might think or as much as other fans might say. I don't think he's really been a problem for us. I think he could be better. I think he could be more of a dominating type midfielder, really trying to be more creative in consistent periods of the game. I think he kind of flows in and out, but for the most part, when he is, playing well in a game, I do think he looks dangerous, and I do think he's one of our better players in helping getting moves started. And we need him to become a big game player like he was against Man City, and hopefully for this Chelsea game, he can become a big game player for us. Let's go over into the left wing spot. I think it's going to be Sonny. He looked bright when he came out against Bournemouth, but then I feel like a lot of others in the team started to disappear into the rest of that second half with the attack. And we're going to need, like I said with James Maddison, we're going to need Sonny to be that big game player. There are a few of these kind of big game players that I feel like have been falling off recently and have been stepping up in the way that we need them to. Like I said earlier, with Dragishin, Davis, Fraser Forster, those have been actually weirdly some of our better players right now. Pop Montsar, I'd say, probably one of our better players right now. We need the bigger names, the stars in the team to start stepping up and be more of those guys that we can depend on to try to, assemble some type of form and get some of these bigger wins. So hopefully Sonny can step up in this one. He needs to start bearing his opportunities as well. He has been a little bit wasteful in recent games, either making the wrong decision, just not executing the finish, kind of a variety of things right now. So we do need Sonny to step up ahead of this one. And going into the right wing spot, we have Kulusevski. He just has to play. Like he's been our best player so far this season. He didn't really play that well, I think, in the Bournemouth game. I think he started brightly, like a lot of guys, but similar to plenty of players in that team, started to disappear, started to fade, and almost play worse, as the game went on. But Kulusevski has to play. He's probably better played through the center. I think, we have a better dynamic when we play Maddison and Kulusevski centrally, but Sarr is basically undroppable. Kulusevski's undroppable. You have to find a way to work them into the team. You could try to play Sarr as a number six, but it's just Ange hasn't done that so far, so it's probably not going to be the case. And then when it comes to Johnson or Maddison, that's really the decision that Ange has to come, to every single game now. Which one does he lean on? And I think recently he's been looking to lean on Maddison, and I felt like maybe in these bigger games he might be looking to lean on Maddison more than Johnson. Perhaps he'll bring Johnson on to make more of an impact later on in games when the game's a bit more stretched. Bringing on that type of pace and that goal threat might be more useful. And keeping Maddison on for the first 60 to 70 minutes, then look to make changes later, seems to be his strategy, at least at this moment in time. So I have gone for Kulusevski, of course, is going to make the team, but I've gone for that thing that we've been seeing recently where Maddison plays centrally, Sarr plays centrally, and then Kulusevski does some sort of floating type role from the right wing and then into other areas. And then finally, we finish off with Dominic Solanke. I'll just say this with Solanke. He's obviously going to play, but I do feel really bad for the guy. I just feel like he's working just as hard as anyone else defensively. He's really pressing his ass off most games. In fact, he probably works double as hard as almost anybody else in that front line. Compared to Sonny and compared to Brennan Johnson, it's not even a conversation. He's working almost double as hard as them when it comes to pressing from the front line. And I'd say his hold up play has been pretty thankless for the most part. He is probably the only guy in this team that I think can consistently, for the most part, be able to trap the ball, hold off his defender, and then try to bring someone else into play. By no means do I think his hold up play is perfect every game. He does tend to maybe go a little bit, I think, do a little too much dribbling, tries to get turned and then try too much. But at times, I do feel like we are getting what Ange Postecoglou needs in that hold up play. It's not Harry Kane, it's not perfect, but I do feel like he's been doing a lot of the unselfish parts of the game for him or for us. Sorry, the hold up play to his aerial work rate, trying to win some of these long balls, up top to him. And also just in general, the pressing, I think, has been really good. So it's gone a bit thankless. And the reason I feel bad for him and all that is he doing all this unselfish work. And then there's just no one really creating for him. How many crosses have we actually seen that have been dangerous crosses, driven crosses into the penalty area? For a striker to try to get onto, for a striker to try to cause some havoc with. I feel like we get so few in a game, if not any at all. We have barely anyone in this team who I feel like that knows even how to cross a ball effectively or at least consistently enough. So I do feel really bad for Johnson. I feel like you look at plenty of other strikers that get far, far better service than he does. But don't get me wrong, I do think he has wasted some chances that have come his way every now and again. But for the most part, like this guy is barely getting any chances, despite how much he is working for the team and actually bringing the best out of others with his work rate and with his hold up play and creating for others. I think he's doing a good job creating for others. I just wish maybe others did a better job creating for him. But that's my little Solanke rant, everybody. Let me know your thoughts on this lineup. Let me know if you disagree with any of the choices that I made, anything that I might have said in the comments below. Become a member if you want to support the channel any further. And we'll see you next time, and we'll see you for the match day festivities on Sunday. Come on, you Spurs.